Yeah. Okay. Hello, everyone. You know us, maybe you don't, but I am Taja Brown, and my sign name's what? Taja. How you doing?
Uh, my name's Tori. Last name's I'm not sure. Maybe you know me, maybe you don't, but now I'm drunk.
You do. So maybe you've already guessed what we're doing here, but clearly we're stepping out on faith a little bit. We're trying something new. So we're welcoming you on our journey with podcasting. We're going to see how it goes. We're going to have fun. We're going to be laid back. Obviously, we're going to talk about some good stuff and, share our opinions, share our perspective, our experiences, all of that. And we're going to share some laughs too. We're going to joke. We're gonna enjoy ourselves. That's my point.
You it's new, fresh, raw. And I know myself. I'm gonna come from an honest place, maybe too honest for social
That's
media.
fine.
But that's me.
Yeah, same. I'm gonna probably come from a more blunt, in your face kind of approach, but that's me too. So I think that's the important thing, just making sure that we stay authentic to ourselves. Hopefully you rocking with that. If you are, great. If you're not, that's too bad. We still would love you to watch anyway, but if not, it was nice knowing you. Um, but you also are gonna notice that there's some variations in our perspectives based on our backgrounds, our upbringings, our cultures, our race, everything from A to Z. So I think that's gonna be a cool element to our show. And then, of course, accessibility. Clearly, both of us, we identify as deaf. So I think that's worth mentioning too, right?
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I sim calm, I mumble inside, so you would definitely see that. So like forgive, but that's me also in real life too.
Yeah.
I
And
just
I mean, I'm with
that.
you on that. I'm a late signer, I know, and so, but I learned when I was 18 when I went into Guyana. So I'm gonna mess up often. My spelling's terrible. But I own that, that's the fun part of it. And then there's some things that we're gonna say that are probably not ASL, but more BASL or like slang and just cultural things that are embedded in us, obviously. So we're gonna be ourselves. We're gonna give it to you, and just go. Honestly, I'm here to just have fun. We want to welcome you guys to join us in the fun. Hopefully, we talk about things that make you think about things more deeply, or maybe give you a new perspective, or maybe challenge your thinking. We want you guys to ask questions. We want to hear from you. We want to um get your thoughts on some things. I mean, this is a dialogue, it's not a one-way street. Obviously, we are going to be doing most of the talking, but we want to hear from you guys too. We don't want to feel like you can't share your ideas or your thoughts too. So this is an open space, and I want to say I think this should be a safe space too.
Yeah, for sure. I know speaking for myself, maybe Tasia too. I've always been in the deaf world, one foot strong in the deaf world, the other foot strong in the hearing world. I'm like, so I I'm here, and there. So and deaf people relate to that, So that's definitely something we will discuss. And like Tisha said, I'm not always be politically correct. Talk about my experiences.
Yeah.
So that's the place where I'm coming from. But I would love to hear your experiences, your perspective, because each of us experience that in a different way, different spectrum, different.
Yeah.
So that I would love to hear that.
Absolutely. I love that you said that. We're not here to be politically correct. I mean, of course, we always want to be respectful, we want to be thoughtful, mindful, yes, but not always politically correct. There's sometimes we're gonna make mistakes or we may not realize something or we maybe need more education or learning in an area. So we ask that you provide the grace for that. Um, and just don't like jump down our throats, you know what I mean? But for me, I will expand. I grew up hard of hearing, which is a very unique experience within itself as it like pertains to the deaf community. I always felt like I wasn't deaf enough, I wasn't hearing enough, I never fit in. Now I don't feel that way, but I had that for my entire life of growing up in an old world, a hearing family, going to mainstream schools, not having any exposure to ASL or deafness or community or people that were like me. I was always the only one. And also, of course, being Black and disabled, that is another conversation for itself. It's not always understood, it's not always empathized, it's not always recognized, and it's definitely not always appreciated. So that's a lot for me to navigate, growing up and then going a complete 180 like change to going into the deaf community and again feeling like I'm not deaf enough. I didn't sign, I didn't know anything about the culture, I didn't know anything about the history, I didn't go to a deaf institute. So I didn't have a lot of friends. Finding my tribe was hard, but found people that were similar to me, part of hearing group, which I greatly appreciate. That's what helped me to keep going, to persevere, and to pick up ASL and become more immersed into the community and eventually find my deaf identity. But it took some time. So now I'm in a beautiful, sweet spot where I know who I am when it comes to that. I don't question that anymore. I don't feel like I'm now implanted and I own all of that. I own the whole experience. It's me uniquely and I wouldn't change it for anything. But that's just something that comes with the territory. So that's a little bit more about my kind of experience in that space. You touched on that a little bit already, Tori, but I wanted to share with them too. Like, what does that look like for me? And you'll notice that both of us are oral, so we speak too, and we simprov. That's our thing. I mean, when I went into Guyana, I got a lot of flack for that. I got a lot. People was like calling me like period thinking and like, you need to turn it off. And I was like, I don't think so. Like, you're not gonna tell me to change who I am?
Told you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, nah, we not.
I came in Cal at '09, and that time, oh, my class coming in amazing because I got to see the cultural, like, I had that cultural shock, like, oh,
Same girl.
because I came from a mainstream environment, young family. My family speaks Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. That's a different conversation for another
Oh,
time.
child.
But I go in and gather, and I remember people be like, "Oh, you hearing? You're
Mm,
not proud to be there." Whoa,
right, right,
whoa!
right,
I'm 18, like sweetheart. I'm still figuring out me.
right,
I'm still doing this.
right,
From a mainstream environment. And then I'm in this full blown where people, and then the deaf institute since elementary school. Yeah, that wasn't me.
right.
I did go to a deaf institute for my senior year because I lost my hearing at 17.
Wow.
But I felt lost. So definitely we can discuss that that gather that experience. That's definitely another podcast.
For sure. For sure.
If you want to hear about that, for
Yeah.
sure. But
Yeah.
that's not for today. But yeah, being deaf just has its unique experience. As 18 to college, and then even now as an adult in the workforce, that's just another layer to being deaf. That
Yeah, it feels like that for me sometimes. I mean, yes, I won't lie. The cochlear implant has changed my life for the better. I mean, everyone has their own unique experience with that and their feelings about it, and I respect that completely. I'm telling you from my personal experience of actually getting the surgery at a later, as an adult, a full-grown adult. So yes, my experience is probably very different from other people's experience of being implanted when they were children and they didn't have a say, they didn't have a voice in that process, or someone who maybe just didn't want that, but that decision was made for them. I had the opportunity to own that decision. I had some traumatic experiences that led to heavily influence my decision, but ultimately it was my decision. It's one that I'm proud of. It's one that I'm so glad that I made. And I wouldn't want to make it sooner. I became a candidate when I was 14 and I decided no. And I had my reasons for that. And again, we can hold for another discussion, but ultimately, like I knew that was not what I wanted. But later in my 20s, I was like, this is something I want to revisit. And it's been positive, been great for me. So yeah, I mean, everyone has their own story when it comes to deafness. And I feel like that's so important to share more of and talk about because not only within our community do we have a lot of friction or just misunderstanding of each other when it comes to things like that, but then you have the outside world that's looking at us and they have misconceptions too. And they feel like all deaf people are the same, or they feel like all of our needs are the same. And that's just not true. We know that all of us have a unique experience, late deafened, deaf blind, there's so many of us. So when you say deaf, you have to expand on that. What do you mean by that? Like, what is that? What was your experience? So another time for sure, but I think that's important to mention. All of the things that we touched on are going to be like the different lenses that we are going to be talking from and sharing from when we talk about our overall perspective and to help inform you on why we think that way, why we feel that way, why we have that opinion or that stance on that situation. All of these things impact us. It's intersectionality. That's a real thing. It's very real. You don't separate them. They all impact each other and they are simultaneously happening at the same time. I'm a Black woman that's deaf at the same time. You know what I mean? I'm not just Black. I'm not just a woman. I'm not just deaf. I'm all of that at the same time in real living color. So that.
for sure, I agree. Like there's so many layers to the word deaf. Then there's deaf with a lower D, deaf with a big D. Where do I?
You're not ready for that.
There'll
Mm.
be deaf people be like, you don't know what you are. No, I'm still figuring that out.
And that's fine. That's okay. I
Yeah.
think that's another thing that we have to embrace in life here. I mean, I'm gonna be fully transparent with you guys. I'm 30 now. I just became 30 this year. And the older I become, the more I realize how we really have to be open and like allow ourselves space to grow, evolve, change, and discover who we are. I don't think any of us know fully who we are, not yet. I mean, even when you sit down with older people who are in their 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, and they still sometimes that they know themselves well. Yes, they've had plenty of time to analyze and experience things and figure out and navigate life. And so they have a good understanding of who they are overall. But like fully 100%, like I don't think we ever get to that point. I think you're always learning, growing, realizing, evolving. That never changes, that never stops until you die.
I think we learn something about ourselves a little bit every day, you
Right.
know? So, like, that's why I feel like our podcast is going to be really fun and it's going to be exciting. It's going to be new.
Especially it's
And
gonna be different. Yeah. Yeah.
for
But that's the
sure,
beauty of it. We need to tell them what's the name, girl. What's the name?
our podcast will be Pink Tax Chat. What?
Why? Tell the people why.
Oh, so much for piles for and the pink tax is that increase for women. But we will be talking about finances. We will be talking about the working world. We will be talking about everything that kind of ties into that, being both of us in the 30s. So we're going to talk about real life stuff.
Right.
I felt like both of us felt like pink tax chat, that open dialogue for all of us. So only men can join this
Of
conversation too.
course. Of course. Yeah.
This
This is not
audience,
exclusionary at all. It's
that
not.
men, women, whatever you identify as,
Right.
I want everyone on this platform just a pink tax is just money that
Yeah. Yeah. And things that are like specifically impactful um to people that identify as women. So you will see a lot of topics that are coming up and you're going to see that alignment there. And then, of course, the chat part is just that's exactly what we're doing. We chatting, we talking, we running our mouths. We're sharing our thoughts and our opinions or whatever. But I mean, we're having a good, healthy, respectful dialogue about the things that we feel and believe are important, worth having some insight on those things. So that's really where we're coming from. I'm excited about kind of diving into this journey. I swear to y'all, like I know it's hot now, but I remember being a college student way back in like what 2013. I went into Guide at 2011. So, 2011, 2012 class stand up. But anyway, I would say around like 2013, I started to like play around with the idea of potentially doing a podcast, but at the time I wore hearing aids and I didn't see how to make it happen. It was an idea, it was a thought, and I like threw it out there. I was like, Tori, what you think? And she was like, yeah, we should, but we wasn't serious about it, obviously.
was like, okay, how are we gonna make it accessible? How
Right. Like the
how
platforms and things that exist today. It wasn't really a thing back then.
how am I gonna make it accessible for deaf people? I hear or see the word podcast. I think podcast
Audio,
that
audio. And back then, that's exactly what it was.
right. I'm like, oh, that's not my world. That's
Right.
young people. That's their world. That's not. I'm not a part of their world. That's how I
Right.
felt. I'm like, oh, we're really just separated there. But
Yeah.
now, I'm like, oh, no, we have Zoom, we have captions, we have
Right.
YouTube, we have captioning apps. But when did I learn about all that access? 2020.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
we came in that game real late. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Right. And I swear, like we're not going to talk too deep about the pandemic. That's not what we're
Yeah.
here for now. I think we're like traumatized from that, seriously. But
Still,
yeah,
like I
that's
said,
so important. Right. That's so important to mention. Like that really revolutionized technology and accessibility. And it's unfortunate that it took a pandemic for
but
people to start actually like paying attention and being like, okay, if we're out of like a physical work building, how do we make sure like everyone can join and actually work?
right.
I swear, like we disabled people and deaf people have been screaming for accommodations, accessibility since like the beginning of time. But now because other people need it, suddenly it's a priority. I ain't gonna complain, but I'm just saying.
I mean, I always feel like maybe in history for young people, we were the footnote, like what we put last, like, for accessibility. We're still now fighting for accessibility,
Yep,
you know?
yep. But
So,
the fight will continue. I mean, yes, we have things that we didn't have before. And I strongly believe that's going to continue. We're going to continue to realize the gaps. We're going to continue to raise our hands and ask for things, and we should. And that's going to lead to more and more inventions, more and more creativity, more and more innovation, hopefully. So I look forward to that. I'm excited about that. I'm glad that these things have already come to pass. So now we can sit here today and actually live out something that we dreamed or talked about years ago. So that's a beautiful thing. I thank God for that.
so to wrap this up, to all my deaf folks, keep standing up, stand up, be real loud. I don't mean loud, I mean loud.
Right,
However you're loud, 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 stand up.
right. And speak up. I think one of the biggest lessons that I've been learning, because it is still ongoing, since the pandemic, is to not let circumstances and situations, environments silence you. And
Mm-hmm.
that can apply to work environments too. Wherever your needs are not being met, wherever you're not getting what you need, what you deserve, what is necessary for you, speak up. Don't be afraid to say what you need. Um, don't let people you. I know that's easier said than done, but it's important that we remain steadfast and we don't just because if we do that, then change never happens. So I'm not trying to preach to y'all today. No, I'm sorry. We're not trying to do that. But I'm just like Tori did. I want to encourage you, myself, Tori, like keep keep speaking up, keep being a voice, keep being a light, keep saying what needs to be said. Don't be afraid to do that. I'm not saying be rude about it. I'm not saying be crazy about it, but I'm just saying definitely do find your voice in like this big world and don't let people silence you and mute you, okay?